Peace and Black Power families, Brother IJ Taimba from Harlem Liberation School. And we teach Black people proudly to wake up, clean up, and stand up, in the words of Brother Malcolm X. We keep that word and concept of liberation in the forefront. It's very important that we keep saying it, keep thinking about it, keep trying to figure out how do we operationalize liberation? How do we define it? How do we describe it? What is our vision? When we are liberated people, what would that look like in education, in medicine, in science, and technology, right? All right, family, thank you for joining us. Please, if you have the time, click that subscribe button. Help us grow the channel. The channel has grown in the last 2 months tremendously, tremendously. On any given week, between 30 and 150,000 people watch this channel. They don't only like 10%, 20% of them subscribe. So we're trying to change that. So help us build out this channel so that we can not only reach more of our people, excuse me, but so that we can refute and fight against the foolishness, the false teaching, and the crazy narratives that some people are spitting out here in our community. We have to combat that, right? And we can't combat that physically. That has to be intellectual and mental. And that's what we're going to be getting in today. Today, family, I have a simple message for you. And you know, I've probably said this 100 different ways. And I'm going to keep saying it until more and more people catch on and get it. This is very important. Anti-intellectualism is whack. We need to kill that. We need to get rid of that once and for all. Now, in Harlem, coming up in the 80s, when I was in my teen years, in the 80s, I came into my young adult and adulthood. And our expression was, that's whack. You know, you selling crack, that's whack. You hitting old ladies over the head, fam, that's whack. You lusting, you 30, 40, and you looking at little girls inappropriately, that's whack. You understand? Whack was that term that meant not good, that we not condoning that. We don't support that. It's whack. And it's incredible that that term has lasted over 40 years. People still say whack. I hear members of the Gen Z population, the 20-somethings, the 18s, saying that's whack. So I'm glad that stayed. We also had an expression say that went, stay sucker free. That kind of meant stay away from people who are whack and who do whack things. That who you align yourself with, who you're around all the time, is very important, and that you should stay away from suckers. So we used to say, stay sucker free. Stay away from whack people who do whack things, think whack thoughts, and talk whack shit to our people in the community. Today, family, my message is this. Pardon my language. My message is this. Anti-intellectualism in our movement has to go. Let me get into it right now, and I want to thank everybody joining us. You know, family, those of us who are regular community members, freedom fighters, revolutionaries, activists, organizers, we are witnessing and living through a time that is remarkably hostile and remarkably vicious and unempathetic and not very compassionate at all. And so this time we live in demands that we have clear minds and sharp strategies, that we see things as they are, and that we get rid of all illusions, anything in the way of us seeing things and people clearly. This means we cannot afford to be anti-intellectual. That mindset weakens our struggle, and it really dishonors our ancestors, who were very clear. They didn't have that. They had their discrepancies, they had their contradictions, and they had things over which they squabbled. But everybody back in the day was clear. We need thinkers. Yes, we need fighters. Yeah, we need people that can build homes and farmers, and all. We need thinkers. Everybody was clear on that. We seem to be a little unclear on that today, and that's disturbing, because at this precise historical moment is the exact moment we need thinkers more than ever, right? Brother Malcolm X told us education is our passport to the future, that tomorrow belongs to those who what? Prepare for it today. Educationally, intellectually. Dr. John Howard Clark told us that all history is a current event, implying that we should take history seriously and study it seriously for answers and analysis, because we will see it again. What we see now is tied or tethered to a history. It didn't just come out of nowhere, right? Okay. So let me get into what we mean. You know what? Before I get into it, let me see if I need to recognize any people in the studio. I do not want to be rude. So if I see you, if you're here, let us know you're here, fam. Let me know so I can shout you out, you know? Derek Penn is in the building. He says facts. That's what's up, Derek Penn. It's good to have some support. If you're here, family, let me know. I want to shout you out, you know, let people know that people are coming through to check us out. All right. I want to continue so that I do not lose track. And you know what? Before I do it, let me put a few things up. Let people know what we're talking about. Let me remind people to subscribe. And let me put something on here to tell you what Harlem Liberation School is, what we're about. Okay, and then let me get back to it. So let's define anti-intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism is the rejection, the devaluing, the suspicion of serious study, analysis, and critical thought, right? And it's important we understand. I want to be clear. I want to make sure that I am not misrepresenting what I really mean to say, and that anyone leaves here and say, oh, I just said that all we got to do is read books. No, you're never going to hear me say that, right? But I want to be clear. We need to be pro-intellectual. We need to be for intellectualism, for scholarship, for research, for analysis, right? Critical thinking. This does not mean that the intellectuals and scholars and should be tucked away in some underground cave somewhere, or some crazy place way in Alaska somewhere, and they just on the internet all day and just reading. No, we're not saying that. We're saying that we should support this idea that we need to study. We need to know what we're talking about. We need to be able to support what we say. That we're not just shooting out random ideas and, oh, I think this and I think that. Don't know what we're talking about. And therefore misleading people and possibly leading people to their actual economic, political, or actual death, family. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is hell. And we should be doing everything possible to prevent our people from going to the hell of ignorance, dying early because we don't know how to eat or exercise, suffering from anxiety and despair and mental health issues because we're ignorant of proper thinking, meditation, yoga, and different things that teach us to calm down and be centered. Divorces everywhere, breakups everywhere, because we ignorant of the science of not just establishing, but maintaining and growing a relationship. Family members going to jail, messed up in school, getting on drugs, because we ignorant about proper living, establishing proper culture in our homes, in our communities, proper teaching, proper setting proper examples, right? So don't tell me that ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is literally killing us, family, in every way possible. Now, I want to, so that you understand what I'm talking about, I want to highlight some characteristics of anti-intellectualism so that you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of this over-reliance on charisma. You don't have to, you could just say something and because you look cute and you're in good shape or you dress well, or somebody like your cologne or your oil, your perfume, your dashiki. Oh, it's good. I shave. I shave, brother. Nah. This suspicion of people that have theory, analysis on our situation, who are reading books and encouraging us to read books. We're suspicious of that. That's kind of a characteristic of being anti-intellectual. Being opposed to people who have nuanced thinking and engage in critical debate. So nuanced thinking means these nuanced thinkers are the opposite of black or white thinkers. Very oversimplistic. The reason this is happening is because of this, and that's it. They haven't considered any other factors. They give you the simplest answer. And sometimes the simplest answer is the correct answer, right? And as you know, if you've been to a doctor or you are a doctor, you know that doctors give a diagnosis. And based on the diagnosis, they give you a prescription. So if you go into the doctor's office and you have severe headaches and loss of breath and you're feeling dizzy, and the doctor takes all that information, because the doctor didn't get a real medical license. He didn't go to medical school. He got a fake credentials. He's anti-intellectual, right? So he tells you, oh man, listen, the problem with you is you got to do some more push-ups. You're not doing enough push-ups. Do you do push-ups? You're like, well, not really. Oh, okay. If you do 100 push-ups a day, not only will you get in good shape, but all your headaches will go away. You won't be dizzy no more. You're going to be good. Your breathing will come back. He has misdiagnosed you, right? And so his prescription, because his diagnosis is wrong, the thing he's telling you to do to get better has to be wrong. So you see why it's important that we have analysis and critical thinking and research and study. Okay. Another thing you'll see is people who are anti-intellectual will tend to mistake people who are thoughtful, reflective. We say, no, let's not jump to any conclusions, right? They will try to label people like that as being weak. Oh, you just doing that because you don't want to get in the battlefield. You don't want to get in the trenches, right? They're impulsive, right? And because you're not impulsive like them, or you're not backing some harebrained, half-baked scheme or idea that will surely get people hurt in prison and no good will come from it, they're labeling you. So people support them and not you. They're labeling you as weak, or you just want to keep thinking so you don't do that. No. Now, let me say this, because I want to make it clear. Let me stop. I think I see a comment. Hold on. And I want to acknowledge these comments. We have, we said Derek Penn, the Messenger 215 says blessings to the channel. Thank you. And welcome to the channel. We have Kevin, A.K. Minister K. He says a forgotten Pan-African philosopher from Cameroon named Bernard Fanion wrote a great book called Genuine Intellectuals, full of practical lessons to be used to combat anti-intellectualism. My brother, that's the next book on my list. Thank you. See, that's what I'm talking about. Add to the discussion. Yeah, excellent. I'm on that. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now, I want to continue. I want y'all to really think about this. Everybody quotes Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Dr. Ben Yosef Jacquemin, known affectionately as Dr. Ben, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Chancellor Williams, and so John H. Jackson, so many other scholars and intellectuals. They were scholars and intellectuals. They weren't, not one of them was an activist the way we understand it today, right? They wasn't knocking on doors and calling people, come to the meeting and rallying people and holding and doing protests against institutions and establishments too much. For the most part, they weren't, right? And why is that? Well, because scholars and intellectuals primarily, the role they play typically is they analyze, they research, and they critique. They write books, journals, and articles. They create philosophies and liberation theories, and sometimes they lead study groups. They hold conferences and they present their papers, their latest findings on things, and they kind of relay that information, make it available to the activists, to the boots on the ground community organizers and leaders, right? Now, activists, on the other hand, and remember, there's always a little overlap sometimes, but activists traditionally focus on direct action, mobilizing the people, organizing the people, protest, community outreach, canvassing the community to see what are the concerns and the needs and regrets of our community members, right? Now, sometimes there's overlap. Oh, and also activists participate in direct forms of community service. So activists might arrange for high blood pressure testing for members in the community. Activists might arrange marches and rallies and protests against the police or whatever. Activists might create food drives, and they might have work with a church or some community center, and they might have food pantries, and the people can come out and they're bagging up groceries for people so they don't have to starve in times that are tough, like this is about to be in this country. So they feed people. The activists might help people get involved with building homes, real estate, all types of kind of on the ground things. But notice there's a kind of a difference in function and role between intellectual scholars and activists. Now, sometimes there's overlap. So we have people like Paul Robeson, who we did a short on, and we have an extended video on him. He's a man whose name I don't hear much, but he was a beautiful, multi-talented genius. Man could speak 20 languages, was a lawyer, Columbia University Law School graduate, All-American football player, award-winning actor, musician. I mean, and he was a Pan-African humanitarian and activist. Now, he was a scholar. He's what we call a scholar activist. He actually combined some of the the features of both into one. One of my great jugglers, Dr. James Turner, may he rest forever in power, was a scholar activist. He's the founding director of the Africana Studies and Research Center at Cornell University, highly intellectual, but he was also one of the people that came up with the term Africana Studies, along with his juggler, his teacher, Dr. John Herrick Clark, right? But he also was convened one of the conveners of the sixth Pan-African Congress in Tanzania. So he was highly intellectual, but he also had those activist sensibilities and qualities as well. So some people actually kind of reach both. But I do want to be clear that there's kind of a difference when we say that person's an intellectual scholar, that person's an activist. It doesn't mean that if you're an activist, you're not intellectual or you're not well-read. It doesn't mean if you're a scholar that you don't ever get involved with protest movements or go to community meetings, but they kind of have distinct features and qualities, which I hope I covered pretty well. And that's okay. That's fine. Because the way I see it from where I sit and from my own scholar activism experience, there's different lanes in this struggle, family. There's different roles for people to play. Everyone doesn't have to fight in the same way. So we got some people who are here clearly to heal us. Dr. Sabi, Lila Africa, Queen Afua. And we got some other people, young ones coming up, taking their place, that'll teach us how to eat right and how to exercise right, get our breathing and our meditation on, family. They're here to heal. They may or may not be at your rally or protest. They may or may not be in the library for hours and hours, but they're working to heal our people. You may see them in the farmers market. You may see them on farms. You may see them on digital social media and writing books and doing lectures to teach people how to eat to live, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in his classic book. We got people who heal our minds and our emotions. We have counselors and therapists and social workers. That's the role they play. You may see them up in the front of the rally. You may see them talking about Ashe, Ashe. You may see them yelling no justice, no peace and feeding the people, but you will definitely see them in schools, helping children with behavioral issues and other issues to get it together and to navigate the public school system. You'll see them in prisons, helping to get our brothers who are on lockdown in captivity to get their minds right, helping them through what must be a traumatic experience, being incarcerated. Right? You'll see them in community organizations, making their services available to families that are in need, that are dealing with high-level dysfunction. Right? So I'm trying to give you a sense there's different lanes. You have teachers who are here to educate in different capacities. You got military types, self-defense types, law enforcement types. They ain't here to have conversation. They're here to hold it down, to secure the meeting. They're here to secure leadership. They're here to make sure that families are okay in these rallies and these meetings. That's what they do. All of these are different roles, and there are more. We have diplomats. We got people that we go to squash beef. We got people we go to say we need to stop fighting with each other. We need to come together. So let's talk about how we can broker a ceasefire amongst these two gangs or street organizations. Right? Let's stop the killing. We got all types of roles, and it's really unfortunate that in 2025, some of us are unable to appreciate that just because you have a particular role and you fill your role, right, that doesn't mean that that's the only role in the Black liberation movement, family. Nor does it mean just because you do something well and you think that's important that there's no other things that we have to cover, right? The nation that you live in right now, think about in the last 2 weeks. What are the different things you did in the last 2 weeks? Some of you got up and you went to the grocery store. We need shop owners. Some of you went to school. Oh, wow. We need teachers and principals and educational administrators. Some of you went to the post office to send a package or receive it, right? Some of you may have went to your local police precinct to make a complaint about noise or because some people suspicious, whatever. The point is, think about just what you do on a day-to-day, all the different agencies and people and things with whom you interact. Those are all parts of a nation. You may live 5 miles from your job. You're not going to walk there or jog there. So you may not have a car. So you take what? Public transportation. You take a public bus or a public train. That's a whole entity. Public transportation, that's a whole entity. Oh man, you might have to go to the doctor. Grandma got to go. Something's wrong. We got to check it out. Medical care, the health care, that's a whole industry. So a nation needs all of those type of people, not just people that's fighting the power, family. It's very important we understand this. Okay, let me go on. I want to give examples of how much in our history we value education. I'm not even going to go to Africa, just here in the United States in more recent times. The Black Panther Party had reading lists, and they had, according to Chairman Fred Hampton out of Chicago, I believe he said an 8-week political education program. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, and RAM, the Revolutionary Action Movement, had political education. They had study groups. We also have a history of having, the Civil Rights Movement called them freedom schools. Barbara Herman Ferguson, rest in power, proposed an idea of a liberation school, as did the Black Panther Party. He proposed it for the Organization of Afro-American Unity, because he was working with Brother Malcolm X. They had a liberation school. They had freedom libraries, right? Our people didn't just march. They didn't just fight the power. They weren't just feeding people family. They were reading. They were studying. They were seeking to understand the world they lived in, what oppression looked like, how it affected them, how we participate in our own victimization, different ways that we could fight back and resist, right? All that was required some study. So this is important. They wanted to analyze systems and come up with liberation theories. Now, you might say, well, brother, I don't see anti-intellectualism in our community, brother IJ. I think you're just making it up because you want to do another broadcast. Let me tell you something, family. I can give you some examples. Today, we got people that if they see certain people reading, right now, this brother IJ here for his philosopher. Here you go, his Mr. Philosopher. I have heard people call me that in a mocking way, a condescending way. Political education, and that stuff ain't no real activism. I've heard that. People say that. People will dismiss philosophy, ideological clarity, defining terms, or any type of intellectual work as that's useless or that's not really radical enough. I've heard people try to distinguish themselves from others by saying, we don't just talk. We don't just do education. We in the streets, as if to say that people who just teach are somehow what? Inadequate, irrelevant. They're not revolutionary. That's interesting. We know that there are people who look down on people who aren't doing what they consider boots on the ground work, right? And this is really important that we dismiss this. This is false teaching. Why? I did a whole video on boots on the ground, where it comes from the military. It's a military concept. Boots on the ground, meaning what? During the war, we need combat. We need soldiers. We need infantry on the ground, ready to shoot and kill and defend and protect. But check this out. 80% of all the jobs in the military are non-combat jobs. Let that sink in. Because when you think of the military, you think of the people with the boots and the camouflage, the fatigues and the helmets, and right? The people flying the helicopters and the planes. But guess what? 80% of the jobs got nothing to do. These people never touch a gun, see a gun, shoot nobody, none of that. Parachuting, flying in no planes. What? They got cooks, custodians, fitness instructors, martial arts teachers, hand-to-hand combat trainers. They have people who teach languages. They have teachers that instruct in different areas, right? They have doctors and nurses and scientists, filmmakers, videographers, and family. You wouldn't believe all of these jobs that are in the military that have nothing to do with killing anybody. And every one of those jobs is important. Every one of those jobs is important to that military being successful and effective, right? So we have to completely demolish this idea that if you're not boots on the ground, you're not doing nothing important. Because even if you figure out where does that term come from the white man's military, he came up with that term, right? And look, even in the military context, the vast majority of the people in the military are not fighters. They're not fighting, family. There's so many other roles people got to play, and I really want that would be as silly as the general of the army saying, all these daggone people cooking, all these cooks we hiring, cooking meals, they need to be out there fighting. Well, wait, how silly is that? They weren't trained in combat. They wasn't trained to handle weaponry. They were trained to cook, and they're doing what they were trained to do. Do not people who fighting in the war need to eat? Oh yeah, everybody needs to eat. Who's gonna cook the food? So this is what I'm saying. Guess what? You know, there's people that all they do in the military is make the uniforms. Yeah, family. There's so many jobs. And see, we take a statement and we'll run with it and we don't stop to really think, is that true? Is that a valid statement? Because we're not critically thinking. If we valued intellectualism, we'd be, when people say slogans and rhetoric to us, we'd be stopping and saying, is that true? Is that true in every context? Right? That may be true applied there, but it's not applicable here. But to get there, we got to be thinkers, family. And what I want to say is that when you do this, we got to be boots on the ground. We don't just teach it. We on the ground. Well, that's like asking the cook in the military to start shooting people, and that's not what they do, family. Now, I can see if you say, our militias need to get it together and get on the ground and protect us. Well, yeah, that's what they are trained to do. But you can't enforce that on teachers. Teachers are trained to teach, to instruct, right? To deliver lessons and information, to help people analyze and understand. It's a whole different concept. Now, some teachers may choose to also, you may have somebody like an Amilcar Cabral who was brilliant, clearly brilliant, but also got involved with the literal revolutionary struggle in an armed way, right? But all teachers don't do that. All people who are highly intellectual don't do it. Some people, that's what they do. They come up with theory and whatever. And when we do this, you got to be all boots on the ground. This is what happens. You're ignoring the strategic thinkers, the writers, the filmmakers, the teachers, and you're almost making them feel like they're not important. I want to emphasize that movements without clear ideological structure, foundation, or theory are useless and ineffective. Do you know, when even if you can get this even from just watching war movies, do you know that even in war, with boots on the ground, that generals are constantly reading military theory, strategies of war, looking at film, right? They're studying, they're analyzing, they're studying maps, they're using surveillance. They got people, spies going to these countries that are gathering what they call intelligence or information on the enemy. It's a mental game. And y'all are, I think, missing it, that our ancestors taught that all things are the mind, that the mind is above everything. That when you know what you're doing, you beat people before you get in the ring, like Muhammad Ali did, right? Psychologically. We don't understand the psychological warfare. So it's very important that we be clear. We also tend to glorify this hustler culture, conspiracy theories over verifiable research and long-term strategy, right? People, oh, we can't use the enemy's tools to be free. Well, wait. So what did Fidel Castro and his band of 20 people do in those mountains when they didn't have the latest sophisticated weapons? They had hatchets and all, knives and all types of inferior weapons. But they took those primitive weapons, attacked and killed the army of Cuba, and took their weapons and used it against them. People like Chokwe Lumumba, Sada Shakur, Walimu Baruti, all types of people went to college, and they took that information, the research skills, maybe the oratorical skills, the writing, and they took that back to their community. They took the tools that they may have gained in the white man's university, and they used those tools on their behalf to fight for us. So even that statement, we say, oh, we can't use them as tools. Yeah, we do it all the time. Because a tool, family, is neutral. It's the wielder of the tool that decides how they're going to use the tool, right? So this is what I mean. And then we got the social media makes all of this worse because we got influencers that are giving us really shallow takes, shallow analysis or no analysis at all, giving us misinformation, right? So we got black people who are confused on their ethnicity, their nationality, and their origin because the people they're listening to are not genealogists, they're not geneticists, they're not anthropologists, they're not archaeologists. They're getting their information from crackpots, right? And in this, and if someone challenges those people, they will pull out the anti-intellectualism number. Oh, I don't need to read every book to know this. Oh yeah. Well, you need listen. If you're talking genetics, you need to know about genetics, family. I'm sorry. Yeah. If you're talking about Black liberation, you need to know about our social political movements, the important pioneers, what nationalism is, what Pan-Africanism is, how they're similar and different, the things we did that worked, the things we did that failed, and why. You need to know that. You can't just jump in talking silly out your neck and expect to win. Right? Okay. So the dangers of being anti-intellectual: strategic confusion. We misdiagnose problems. Thank you. We misdiagnose problems and we misdirect our energy. We're susceptible to misinformation without intellectual grounding, without study and research. We fall for propaganda, complete foolishness, and cult-like behavior. Because nobody said, no, that's not true. If you want to know something, this is where you go. This is how you do that to verify that. That's not true. Because you have people telling you, if you're hungry and you really want to clean out your intestines, you need to eat your feces, man. Eat your feces. And you'll have some of us making shakes. Making shakes, family. Because we haven't been taught, no. You never take something in faith. You always do research, and there's certain sources you go to that are relatively credible, right, to find out. So one of the things is when we're having a conversation that is historical in nature, we got to go to some historians. When we're having a conversation that's genetic in nature, we need to see what the geneticists say, the people who study that, right? Does this make sense, what I'm saying? If we want to know about the structural integrity of a bridge, we got to go to our mechanical engineers, family, the people who know the science of it. Or else you just getting a bunch of people that's giving opinions that don't know what they're talking about, right? So when we anti-intellectual, we also participate in real surface level organizing. We explore or we talk about or we follow what's trendy. We're more concerned with the optics, how it looks, how we're presenting ourselves to the public, right? And very little substance, and therefore very little traction, very little progressive movement. It also creates weak leadership, because what happens is the person who's the loudest or the cutest or has the best mics and cameras and backdrops and the most followers gets the clout. They clout chasing. Charisma begins to replace competence. Slogans replace solutions, because after you say no justice, no peace 100 times at the rally, and after you like a people united will never be defeated another 200 times at another rally, now we got to talk about, were we successful? Do we have demands? What are our demands? How did we come up with these demands? Was it just the 10 of us in leadership, or did we canvass the community? Were we able to present our demands? Did we present the demands to the right people? You didn't do the research, so you present your demands to people who have no power to do nothing for you. You went to the rally with the police come out and attack. Did you study the formations that police come in? Did you study the ways that the things they do, the weapons and the tools they use to disorient protesters? Are you prepared for that? Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. And when you do all of this, anti-intellectualism, it stunts the growth of your members and your organization. There's nobody reflects, nobody evaluates how did we do, were we successful, did our plans work the way we wanted? And so what happens is we just keep repeating outdated methods that don't work, outdated stuff. Nobody thinks to say, well, maybe that was true. Then maybe the terrain has changed now. Maybe what worked then won't exactly work now because we're looking at something different right now. Now, and lastly, it ostracizes and alienates the scholars, the intellectuals, the educators, right? It makes them think you guys, it actually gets in the way of recruiting new people to our movement, because the nerds, and I'm using that word, I don't want to use that, I don't mean that in a negative way, but I'm using a word that we understand. The people we call nerds in our community, the computer people, the people that's know about the cyber terrorists, that know how to create artificial intelligence agents, and all these things, we ostracize them. Oh, you're not. Oh no, we don't need no nerds up in here. Well, guess what? The enemy you fighting got whole departments full of nerds. Are you doing your study? You know, they got whole departments of people that study artificial intelligence, making robots, finding ways to survey you, to get information, all types of making gadgets and all. They got whole departments of nerds that's what they do. They don't call them, oh no, we need you, stop being a nerd, come to the field and let's shoot some people. No, they're not trained for that. When will we get this, family? This is very important. If we want to win, we got to have the right thinking, right? Okay. Now, here's some fallacies that promote anti-intellectualism. If it's not from the street, it ain't real. So we're creating this false division between, it's a class thing. Listen, we got black people. A lot of us had no choice in where we grew up. I didn't choose to be born in Harlem. That was my mother and father's decision, right? So you making people feel like if they didn't come up in certain neighborhoods, then they're useless. How foolish is that? We need as many brothers and sisters as we can get, as long as they're not traitors and they're willing to do the work and they're trustworthy and they love black people. Or we say reading is for nerds and academics, not revolutionaries, not realizing that the revolutionaries I know of and respect, without exception, were highly intelligent and highly well-read, whether they went to got formal education or not. So George Jackson, did you read Blood in My Eye? Soledad Brothers? Did he strike you as a brother who was inarticulate, who could not write well, who was not thoughtful and reflective or well studied? I know a brother, we call him Chief, Brother Mansa Fode, lives in Sierra Leone. This is a brother that, like many of our good brothers, went the way of, the streets, and he wound up being in jail, and he learns in jail. He didn't go to no formal college. But listen to that brother on the broadcast we did with him. He's one of in my brotherhood I'm a part of. Chico Kumbunga, Chico La Kumbunga, the eye of the whirlwind. That's what it means in Swahili. This brother's breaking it down. He's breaking geopolitics down. You'd have thought he majored in political science and went to some fancy college. He didn't go to no college. He respects information. He knows I can't be out here fighting for no people. I don't know who am I fighting? Why am I fighting? What tools am I using to fighting? Have I trained myself to use that tool to fight? How will I know when I've been victorious? What's our vision? Yusef Bunchi Shakur, a friend and comrade of mine in Detroit, who just happens to have an award-winning documentary out right now. This is a brother who started a gang in Detroit, went to prison, met his father in prison. His father had become a revolutionary. His father takes him in, teaching him, takes him to his comrades in the prison and captivity, teaches him. Yusef comes out, hits the ground running. Yusef, when he went to prison, didn't have a high school diploma. In prison, he got his GED, his associate's degree, his bachelor's degree, his master's degree, and yes, his doctorate degree. I'm giving examples. Brother Malcolm, of one of the biggest of all, who said that you got to study, you got to read. Gotta read. He said information is key. And if you can get your hands on this blog article, many years ago, a brother wrote a beautiful blog article chronicling all the different books that Malcolm had mentioned that he read. And we're talking about philosophy, psychology, education, theology, political science, sociology. Wide reader. You see? Oh, you got people who say this to promote anti-intellectualism, make it sound cute. Man, we just got to come together. We don't need all that theory. We just got to come together? Is it that easy? Black people have been coming together for centuries around a lot of different things, some good and some not so good. And we ain't free. It takes a little more than coming together, family. Or, no, the ancestors will guide us. Well, yeah, this is true. They will. But we got to study their lives, their history, their achievements, their lessons, their writings, their speeches, their setbacks, their blind spots, the things they didn't see, right? We don't need books. We just got a lived experience. I don't need to study. I just been around for 80 years, so I just know. Nah, family. Even your lived experience means nothing if you don't take time to reflect on your experience, to give thought to the people that came across you in your life, the experiences you had, why you had them, what lessons you got from them, how they changed you, putting things in context. So people come up with all these things, but at the end of the day, all false teachings. You still need to analyze and think. What we need instead of that, I'm going to suggest, we need to normalize political education, study groups, liberation schools, community reading circles. We need to bring that back. We need to be, let me tell you something. I helped to start a middle school in the Bronx, New York, the boogie down Bronx, home of hip hop. 25 years ago, we started that school, Knowledge and Power Preparatory Academy. And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. I noticed certain students would keep getting the highest grades, being valedictorians. And I would go to the parents. I say, wow, this person did this in 5th grade. He did it in 6th grade. They're in this involved with this organization. They're doing this. And I say, what accounts for that? You're their parents. I would pop right up to the parents and ask them. They don't get in trouble. They're doing this. They're helpful. And they would tell me. One family told me, Mr. Taimba, we teach our daughter that education comes second only to eating and breathing. And guess what? It shows. It shows. Education comes second to eating and breathing. They're teaching their kid right there. Education is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's a requirement. And they create a culture in that home. And I said, well, what type of culture do you create? And they break it down. They come home. They got a schedule of things they do. They have some fun. They watch the TV. They play little games. They do their study. I mean, so this is something that we can create a culture and teach family. Right now, our culture is video games, watching YouTube, farting around, doing nothing, gossip. We could change that in our homes, family. Before we go out to school, we could change it right in our homes. Change our expectations, change our requirements, change the way we incentivize our children, all of that. Also, we need to encourage our leaders to be students and as well as teachers. Everybody wants to give advice and tell people what they should do. Guess what? My objectiveness told me the best leaders started out as the best students. The best teachers started out as the best students. How do you tell anybody anything when you haven't done it? from what you reference. Otherwise, you're just mimicking what you hear other people say. To be able to say that, you have to have either had that organic experience, or you've had to study it or take the time to reflect, right? So the more you know, the more you have to give, family. Also, I think we should identify and celebrate scholars who serve our people, whether they are in the trenches or not, right? It's very important that we salute our teachers, our intellectuals, family. Now, you got people like Karenga, who was both. He was a solid intellectual, and he was a solid activist and community organizer. But many people, what they do, all you do is teach. Yeah. That's a whole profession. That's a whole industry. People spend their whole lives training to teach. They're not good enough for you because they're not in the streets bucking shots at the police. Come on, family, get it together. Stop it. We have to balance theory and practice. We have to. And so I want to just kind of finish out. I want to say Black power without Black thought and thinking is just Black noise. Let's be real clear. Our ancestors set an example. They gave us a character in fiction known as the trickster character. I've said this many times before. One of the famous ones, I think, comes out of the Ghanaian tradition, Anansi the spider. But Anansi also could be different animals or insects. And the key with a trickster character, family, is that they're always small physically and weak looking. But yet they consistently beat animals and human beings who have guns, money, and are much larger in stature. How do they beat them? They outthink them. Our ancestors left that character to teach us something. Now, white people have taken that character. When you watch Bugs Bunny, he's a trickster character. When you watch Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner, he's a trickster character. Brer Rabbit was a trickster character. Small creatures. Bugs Bunny, how many times did he outthink and outwit Elmer Fudd with the big gun? Every time, because he outthought him. So never underestimate the importance of thinkers and intellectuals. I want us to really think about how we can combat this anti-intellectualism. Not by talking about it a lot, but by doing it. Those study groups are important. We need people really studying Black nationalism and ways that times in which it worked, times in which it's blind spots. Where is it weak? What are the issues that Black nationalism isn't addressing that it needs to address? What is our position on the environment? What's our position on these different things? Gender. What's our position on this and that? Like we used to do in the 60s, they call it white papers. They wrote papers on, and they had positions, and they participated in activism based on their positions. We're not doing that today because now YouTube has become the university. And in some ways that's good. But in some ways it's bad because the people in there sometimes don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're miseducating and misleading people. So we got to bring study groups back, book clubs back. You know, today we're going to look at Amos Wilson's book about Black power. Now we're going to look at John Hancock's book, Malcolm X, The Man in His Times, when he's breaking down Malcolm X. And what. Now we're going to read the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, right? And every month or so, you read a book and you break down the key things. It should be very targeted. It should be to answer questions, not just, oh, we read the book. Targeted reading, like you're in graduate school. You have specific questions you're trying to answer. So you have the study group to answer it. So family, please, let's get on that. Every movement that succeeded is rooted in the blend of theory and action. And please stop creating these false dichotomies. Either you're intellectual or you're activist, but the activist is higher than intellectual. Stop it. We got to stop having hierarchical leadership, like where we're ranking things. You're the cook. You're not important because you're not on the field. You're the teacher. You're not important because you're not at the rally. Come on, stop. We have to stop that. Stop making the intellectuals and scholars feel unwelcomed in the movement and unappreciated in the movement. We're going to lose them, and guess who's going to pick them up? Guess who does appreciate our nerds and our intellectuals and our teachers? Guess who? The man you fighting against. Better stop it. And that's what's going to happen. People are going to leave our movement and join our enemy because people want to be where they feel appreciated. Where people say, hey, good job. Thank you for that analysis. You prevented us from doing something that would have been a waste of time and money. Thank you for that. People need that. So we have to stop. We have to rise with intelligence and activism because our literal liberation literally depends on it. With that, I'm done, family. I want to go and see. I want to look at some comments. We got Kevin A.K. Minister K. This great book called Black Bibliophiles and Collectors, Preservers of Black History by Eleanor Des Verney Sinnett about the significant power of active literacy for Black self-empowerment. You talking my talk. Kevin A.K. Minister K is bringing it. That's what I'm talking about. He's giving us some actual books to read, family, to really brush up. And here's the thing about revolution. We should all be lifelong learners. I got graduated from 3 different colleges, got 3 different degrees. Guess what? I don't give a damn. Every day, I take no days off. Every day. When I feel great, when I feel terrible, which is rare. I have to be honest. I don't feel bad usually. But even when I do, I make sure I'm studying. I make sure I'm learning something. Even if I put on my headphones, Bluetooth headphones, I go to YouTube and put on an audio book. I make sure every day I'm learning something. We have to be lifelong learners. This ain't a thing where you got a doctorate, so you good now. Stop playing. Right? Okay. Derek Penn. My brother says, the more you know, the more you have to give. Yes. Yes. And I want to say, family, we came out of our communities and we all knew people. Maybe we were some of these people. The people that fronted, we call it you perpetrating a fraud, you fake, you phony, right? The people that would act like they were this big time person, did these big, but they're lying and we know it. And here's the thing, that as a teacher, I would tell my students, black and brown little babies, all the time, the time you spend fronting, lying, making up stories and embellishing, making yourself more important and accomplished than you are, you could take that time and actually be the person that you're fronting like being. Isn't that remarkable? Think about it. All the time you spend doing that, trying to impress people, you could actually be going to school, going on YouTube to credible sources and learning some things, going to community college, finding free courses in your neighborhood, contacting elders or people in the neighborhood that have a mastery in a certain skill and learning from them, making an arrangement and learning from them, reading on your own, getting involved with community organizations, starting community organizations. So in other words, if you just do the work, you could be that important person. You don't have to front, right? That we have to really teach our children that early. Live the type of life where you don't have to do that. Just do the work and you'll be that important person in our community. Now we have Native American readings. Dr. Amos Wilson's writings are life forms. Listen, one time somebody asked me, which book you think I should read from Amos Wilson? I said, every one of them. I'm going to make it simple for you. Every book of Amos Wilson you can get your hand on, read it. Every book of our great elder, Jegna Baba Obatashaka, read it. Every book you can get your hands on that Dr. John Henrik Clarke wrote, read it. They are all precious. They are all gems. So I agree with you, Native American readings, absolutely. Honorable Silas Muhammad said it best, truth is a form of life. Yeah, yes, it is. That's right. That's why there's an expression called mentally dead. There's people in your family, unfortunately, I hope not, in your community that breathe and walk around, maybe even go to the gym and exercise, and they talk and they're dead. They're dead because they don't have knowledge of self. They may not love themselves, and they may look to others as gods on earth instead of themselves. They're mentally dead, right? You can't do nothing with them of use because they don't see themselves as useful. And therefore, they won't invest in themselves to be their highest selves. This education, intellectual thing, this anti-intellectual thing, rather, is a distinctly European phenomenon that some of us have adopted. You go back in time, any historical era you want. Once people were literate, and you tell me what you see on the temple, the tomb walls in Kemet, in Timbuktu, in the Mali Empire, Grand Lodge of Luxor, you tell me what you see evidence of. You ain't gonna see evidence that African people frowned upon knowledge. That didn't come from us. We revered knowledge and revered those who had it. The griot or griot was widely revered in African villages. The elder who held the village history in their mind and could spit it and recite it perfectly every time was revered, because the community knew if we don't have cultural custodians, we will be disconnected from our villages. We'll be like walking dead people, right? Kevin, aka we go Ronald Walters now. All right. Kevin, aka Minister K, says the books by the late Ronald W. Walters are good reads. His book entitled African American Leadership highlights and opens one's eyes on the different nuances and levels of leadership. There we go. So, family, right there, you got about 4 books right there to start. And I would suggest Brother Kaba Kameni, who used to work at the school we started. I got to tell you something about Kaba Kameni and the importance of intellectualism. I was a brand new teacher in 1997 who went to Houston and learned the basics of being a teacher. Came back to New York, and that first year, a brother who became my executive named Richard Tanko, with whom we started the school I told you about, he said, "Hey, there's a brother I got to take you to because you're very conscious and African-centered. This brother teaches, social studies teachers like you, how to take Africana studies and history and infuse it into their lessons and remain consistent with the curriculum standards." I said, "Really? Take me to him." We go, and it's a brother named Booker T. Coleman, who became Professor Kaba Kameni. You know him from Hidden Colors. This is back in 1997, family. He understood we can't just all have African-centered schools. 85% of our kids go to public schools. We have to also be where our people are. So while some people build the African-centered schools and go that route, which I support 100%, shout out to Mama Ya Baruti and our Baba Walimu Baruti. Shout out to Baba Amin. Shout out to Marcus Klein and all the people I know personally that have independent schools. But also know we got to train teachers to teach in the public schools, because that's where most of our kids are. And that's what Brother Kaba had the vision and the brilliance to understand back then. And I'm so thankful that he was there, because he took what I had to offer and he multiplied it, because I had the Africana Studies background, solid background, but he took it now and showed me, okay, you got the background. This is how you put it into these lessons for middle school, right? I'm going to grad school for it, but yeah, how do you take that and put it into middle school lessons in a way that meets the curriculum standards but edifies our kids. He saved me years of my life. He taught me how to do that. So I'm forever grateful with Brother Kaba Kameni for that. But see, that's the type of thinking. That's a thinker, right? And by the way, he ain't no punk either. He's down with the New Black Panther Party. He was down with Zulu Nation. But look, Kaba Kameni is the truth. So he can do it intellectual and otherwise, right? And he gets much respect. Native American readings. Oh, I see somebody that's getting to some Nation of Islam, some God body stuff here. The Lessons of Supreme Wisdom by heart. I agree. Mathematically, it is correct. Woo! Listen, fam. I grew up in Harlem. Back then, I could walk to the school of Allah School in Mecca. Now I can't quite just walk that easily over there. But back, I would be there all the time as a high school student. And I learned a lot of foundational consciousness from the gods. Got mad respect for the gods. Absolutely right. Them supreme mathematics. Yeah, and who's the original man? Who's the 5%, 10%, 85%? Yes, very relevant to this day. So, family, I don't want to bore, but I went over an hour. I didn't mean to go that long, family. I apologize, but I thank you all for joining us. We're doing our best at Harlem Liberation School to give you information we believe is right and exact, is relevant, and is useful, most importantly. So we give you stuff we think is good to know globally, and we also give you stuff that we're saying these are warnings. We got to be careful. We're going in a bad direction. And this anti-intellectual strain, we got to get rid of that. When you hear people talk about, we don't need to read. I heard a brother told me, I read half this book. I didn't need to read the whole book. I was like, maybe not. But you'll never know because you never read the whole book. Maybe that half of the book you didn't read because you were seeking. Right? So we have to get our people out of that. We need to be not only literally literate, we can read. We need to be politically literate, where we know what certain terms mean, where countries are on the world map, where the hemispheres are located. We need to know that geography. We need to be politically, literate. Thank you, family. Always a pleasure to have the privilege of speaking with you and coming before you. I love you, respect you, honor you. And I believe that no matter what enemies do, black, white, or otherwise, if we do what we need to do, ultimately we will win. And that's just the faith I have. And I will never think differently. I'll never give up. Sometimes I'll get sad, I'll get disappointed, but I'm never giving up. Not until my casket dips. Even until then. And until the next dimension. Family, thank you so much for being here with us. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep studying, researching. Let's work together. And let's run our race as good as we can. Let's, in our lane, run in your lane as good as you can, and then prepare another generation to come right up behind you. With that said, peace and Black Power, family. Wukusu, have a blessed evening. Thank you. Please share the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you, family. Peace.